You're watching Money Talk Viewpoint, and I'm Chantel Leeson. We're the online talk show for financial professionals who specialize in family office, high net worth, and ultra high net worth clients. Now, my guest speaker for today is Scott Buss, and he's the founder of Advent Jet, and it's a concierge service for the ultra high net worth. Scott, how are you this morning?
Very good. How are you doing? Thank you, Chantel, for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us all about I know it's more than just a jet company, but tell us all about what you do and how you got started. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, I appreciate that. So a little bit about me is I'm from the Midwest originally, reside in Scottsdale, Arizona. Basically, I'm a self-taught entrepreneur, like many people out there, was come from the mortgage and real estate background. What I found out is I got into private aviation about 8 years ago, and we always think as owning something or starting something, the more that you can kind of control the client in a good way, the more likely they're going to have a good experience. So I started with the private aviation, and then it just kind of led into a global white glove concierge. So now we have relationships, family offices, sports advisors, you name it, family people that will come out and reach out and say, okay, we want to fly private, we need a Bentley, we need executive protection, or they might call and say, we need a nanny, or we need a personal assistant, or we want to go to Formula One, or whatever it may be. So that's kind of what I did. I developed the relationships first all my life, as I'm a very spiritual person. So I believe God brought all these relationships all my life. And then what I did is I formed a business around it, where in business, a lot of people will have to go out and get the relationships or the contacts. I've already built that all my life. I didn't know that until I was 47 years old when I started the business.
I'm going to say you answered about 5 questions all in one paragraph there. I was going to ask you how you got started in the business, but you sort of answered that. But what I like that you pointed out is that it started from something deep within you. Yes. Because you're right. Most of us do it we go through a cold list and you'll buy tons of leads and you just whip through the leads. But you did it the other way around.
Correct.
How did you build that first relationship?
I think the first relationship I didn't know back then, and being a very spiritual, a lot of my relationships, God was putting me in touch and place to form this business. And I was raised by a single mom. My mom's my world. Shout out to my mom. Hi, Mom. And so basically, I've always been distilled with trust and transparency at a young age. And that carries over to friendship, relationships, business, whatever. I always say you have to have a foundation of trust, respect, honesty, and communication. And so at a young age, I think that just distilled in me. I didn't know where I was going to be, but that's what it transitioned later on in life. Then I finally became a man, and it's like, okay, now I know why I have these relationships.
Scott, I want to point out something too. You said trust. Believe it or not, many people don't understand that, but that is a critical factor in building relationships. Because when you think about anything in the sales industry or the financial services industry or anything that people are dealing with people's assets, it's fast-paced, fast-moving. And to me, we sort of leave out how important that is. And it's not a fancy tool. It's just a gut level, in the heart feeling. You have to be able to trust the people you're around. I know in family office, we can't have people on our team we don't trust because there's too much confidentiality involved. The people you're dealing with, they have to trust you. The clients have to trust you. All the people on that team have to be people you trust.
Agree. I agree.
So I like that you brought that out.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Trust is something you have to earn. It takes time. Some of these relationships and building rapport with people, it's not overnight. But with my business, I've really never had to market. It's all been word of mouth, organically. And I think that's the strongest part that I can give that God gave me the ability to white label, build myself. And trust is earned. But I can be brash where you burn me once, I move on from you. But as God would say, you have a rear view mirror and you have a windshield. The windshield can move forward, keep going. The rear view mirror is so small and tiny. I don't have time for toxic. And so trust is very important, distilled. And I think a lot of people, and when you work with like-minded people, you shouldn't have to, it's just common sense.
I like it. You're exactly right. Exactly. Let me ask you now, that being said, who is your target client? Do you have a specific target client? In other words, are you doing with Hollywood stars or athletes or corporations or tell us who you look for? or how do you find them?
Sure. So a lot of the relationships that I have are people on TV shows, high net worth individuals that want to not, they travel private for a reason. They don't want to be posting to social media and things like that. Family offices, sports agents, business women, businessmen, families. We work with all kinds. The reason why is our company is a little bit different. If I can share, most companies, you have to buy a membership and then you're committed to lock into like 20 hours. Well, Chantel, if you're a businesswoman and you're only going to fly once or twice a year and maybe only 4 or 5 hours, why should you pay a big fee and lock in to commit to 20 hours? I know that word commitment scares a lot of people sometimes, but when you're talking jet aviation, so our client is, we have people that with COVID, they've never flown private, but they wanted to find out what the cost is and things like that. It's not cheap, I will say that, but there are alternative options out there to save the clients money. But you don't have to deal with, it's a lot more economical. And I use this as an example real quick. Based in Scottsdale. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll have business people that will fly from, say, Scottsdale to California. And what we'll do is think flying commercial to California, renting a car, how many days it's going to be. Well, what we can do is we can fly you to San Diego, LA area, San Francisco. You could do 3 to 5 meetings in a day and still be back. So, we can do that to Texas. We can do that around the world. So it's now, is your ROI worth it? Because if you meet at the FBOs, you can have food catered in. There's a lot of different things that I try to gain. I'm not just here to show what the best option. I try to give options for every client's individual or family needs.
And you mentioned something else, because you do more than just flying a jet. I mean, transporting it on a jet. There are a lot of other little things that people don't think about, but when it comes to high net worth and family office, convenience is a very important factor. You're able to do some things. Tell us some of the things you do for them that's more than just travel.
Sure. So a lot of my relationships opened up with trust and transparency. So I usually deal with the seller, the buyer, the mandator, the attorney. And I have access to a lot of off-market, where if it's real estate, yachts, aircraft, jewelry, working on a gold deal right now with a refinery. So artwork, anything to do with high net worth. There's nothing that I probably cannot find. It's just going to make sure that the buyer and seller's terms and agreements can work. But I focus on a lot of things that most people don't do. That's what God gave me the ability to do. So flying is just a part of it, but working on putting big deals, where if it's a $400 million property or a $10 million residential commercial, whatever it may be, I do a lot more than just the aviation.
And let me ask you a question about that then. Let's say a person has a family-owned business and they want to scale to another level. And they've talked to a financial advisor, they've talked to a few people, but they're not finding what they're looking for. But they have, let's say they've got, I don't know, $100 million in their purse to put into something. Would they reach out to you? Or how would they help?
They could, because as I say, I'm not always about the money, because when you love what you do, the money will come. And so I don't like to work with people that, what's my commission? What's this? What's that? You know what? If I'm going to work with you and be transparent, we're going to sign paperwork. We're all going to be taken care of. Okay. However, I have different relationships. So it comes down to trust. If it's a family office, or if it's yourself, or, might not be a revenue split with me right now, but they might say, hey, Scott, I have somebody that wants to buy a plane or fly here or this. And that's how you leverage relationships, monetize, I like to say, in a good way. And so I'm always open to having discovery calls and say, hey, you want to whiteboard or pick your brain, pick my brain? That's okay. I'm just a simple guy from the Midwest that just loves what he does.
Well, you're beyond that simple guy from the Midwest. You're really, with me, you're way beyond that level. But what I like about it is that the heart of you is still there. When some people, they move up the ladder and they grow, they sort of lose that what is it? They can walk with kings, but lose the common touch. You've never lost the common touch. And that, I think, is kind of important. In fact, that's part of the poem. It's called If by Rudyard Kipling. And that's correct. You didn't leave the common touch, and I love that. Going on to that topic, let me ask you a question. There's different types of family office, and there's different types of money. There's old money, new money, tech money, entertainment money, the new influencer money. There's all kinds of. Is there any difference in what you're finding with the different people that you work with, or is there
not really? Not really. It's just the way they work. I think, you have people that have, the old money moves different than the people that have the young, like the millennials. They're all about phone and technology and things like that, where someone like me, I don't mind Zooms at all, but I like to sit down and break bread with people and build those relationships so much over the phone. Not really. It's just I think more of the elderly, older people, and I'll put myself in that. We kind of are educated old school. I think the millennials, the social influencers, if you want to use them, they don't know some of the options that are available. They think everything's via tech and phone. And I just think that there could be lessons learned on both ways. Some people like technology, some people do not like technology. So it depends. I think it's not sales, but it's you have to intuitions, I believe, are very important. And I believe you have to be diverse with who you're talking to and give them options, because somebody ain't going to understand this. But if you explain it to this way, they might be so confused they don't know what you're talking about. So you have to, like, sometimes I talk to people, they don't even know what a family office is.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So when I explain it to them, then they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then they start, kind of like a car. You think of a certain brand you don't think of, and then you see it, and then all of a sudden, boom, you see it all the time. So it's all about educating the right people and how we can all work together and monetize the relationships.
You know what? Here's another thought too. There are a lot of
Yeah,
women on the rise becoming successful entrepreneurs. Women, and there's two different, I'm going to go to two different levels. There are women on the rise, and there are people that have never gone anywhere, and all of a sudden, at some point in their life, there's an upshot. Something happens, and their income. I'm gonna almost like Colonel Sanders, Harlan
sure,
Sanders. He didn't
sure,
become a millionaire until much later in life. And
sure.
this is happening. I think we're seeing this because of technology. We're seeing a lot of upshots in people, women and young people, but particularly women who are
Yeah.
coming out of nowhere and making tons of money, and their moms. Any thoughts you'd like to share with women?
Um,
And I'm telling you, I'm asking that. You're a mama's boy, and I love it. You love your
yeah,
mom.
I have no idea. I never hide anything. I'm 51 years old and I'm a mama's boy.
I
And
love it.
I love my mom the best. I try to do anything I can for her, but I've always worked with strong women. They don't intimidate me, where I believe there's enough money in the world that women can be successful, men can be successful, whatever race, whatever you want to, not politics, don't bring any of that into it. You just, women are very strong. We need them in society. And there's some very successful women. And I think sometimes guys are intimidated or think, oh, what does she have better than me? And you know what? I'm actually working on a couple of deals right now that the women are the CEOs of their companies. And I don't have an issue with that, because you know what? If I don't know it and they know it, and it makes me better and it can make a better situation better, great. But I never have an issue with women working with. I think because being a mama's boy, I think I've always looked up and expected and respected women.
I think women like mama's boys though, because what happens is we know that if you care about your mother, you're going to care about them.
Sure,
And there are
sure.
little subtle things.
I agree.
Yeah. And there's subtle things about the way women do business that's a little different than men. And it doesn't mean that one is good or bad or better or worse. It's just that there are
Sure.
different styles in how we conduct business. And I think that women are going to love working with you. My next question is about corporations. People work for corporations sometimes their whole entire lives. And they have that desire to get out of that corporate model, and they don't even have a feeling for how to get past that point. You did that. You went from corporate life to your own business, and you didn't do it at 25. What made you to make that decision to go out on your own, and how did you go about doing it?
It's a great question. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, but what I'm going to say is I think the biggest thing with leaving corporate and going to something or starting your own, it's fear. Everyone's afraid of fear. I was, but the thing is if you don't try, you don't know. Doesn't, and so corporate America is great for some people. Don't get me wrong. I never thought I would be working for myself, but all my life I was working for myself because I was building relationships. It just took me different ways to figure it out. Same thing if you're at a corporate job. But I think fear, and you know what? If you have an idea or you have a goal, find a couple people that you trust in your inner circle, talk to them, and you know what? Go for it. Because now we are in the world with technology. You don't have to be in a corporate. You can white label off of someone else's business or network with somebody and come up with your own ideas and brainstorm. And so I think in the world that we're in, nothing against corporate. I loved it and it shaped me a lot, but it's just sometimes it got too political and too this and too that. And now to have my financial and my own independent freedom, you can't put a price on that. And I would say whatever your dream is, no matter if it's small or big, go for it. And if you have any questions or ideas or suggestions, I'm happy to sit here and be a thought partner. And, you know, I mean, anything that I can do to help you succeed. That's what life's about. It's rewarding.
What do you see are any growing trends on the rise right now? Or do you see any?
What strengths are on the rise right now?
Yeah. What do you think is growing on the rise?
Obviously the technology. I don't want to get into the AI because I'm overwhelmed with AI myself. I just stay to what I'm good at, because a lot of people with AI coming out, give an example. It's so new. Everyone's like, I got to be on top of this or this or this or that. But then you lose the mindset that, hey, focus in on what you're good at. If you're not good at the AI or technology, find somebody that does. But I think technology, obviously, the last couple of years, I think not having to go into a office building all the time. There's a lot of different things that I think have changed.
Yeah, a lot has changed. And I think that we have to grow with the change. But even with all that change, there's some things that never change, and that is character.
Character. I believe character, communication, trust, respect, and transparency. I know I sound like I'm preaching, but that's what I live by. And if you live by that and you have those beliefs, good things will come out.
It will come out. Let me ask you, could you share with there are young people that listen to our show, and there are people that are our age, over 30.
Sure.
Give some of your feedback for those who may be sitting on a fence, wondering what to do. What would be your input to them? So because let me go a little